Hello, hello. All right, so it's new book time. Ayo, ayo. Let's read a new book. Obviously, we won't read like a super lot of it or whatever like that, but we will read a little bit of it. This is a longer book, so this one's going to take us into the next month for sure. But it's very exciting. Oh my gosh, I know Nisa, it's been forever, but I'm so glad to see you again. Love it. All right, so let's read the introduction. This is the introduction to the new book. So we're reading The Once and Future Witches. We have been waiting since September for this book. I could not be more excited. An introduction. There's no such thing as witches, but there used to be. It used to be that the air was so thick with magic that you could taste it on your tongue like ash. Witches lurked in every tanglewood and waited at every midnight crossroad with sharp-toothed smiles. They conversed with dragons on lonely mountaintops and rode rowan-wood brooms across full moons. They charmed the stars to dance beside them on the solstice and rode to battle with familiars at their heels. It used to be that witches were wild as crows and fearless as foxes because magic blazed bright and the night was theirs. But then came the plague and the purges. The dragons were slain and the witches were burned, and the night belonged to the men with the torches and the crosses. Witching isn't all gone, of course. My grandmother, Mama Mags, says that they can't kill every magic because it beats like a great red heartbeat on the other side of everything, and that if you close your eyes, you can feel it thrumming beneath the soles of your feet. Thump, thump, thump. It's just a lot better behaved than it used to be. Most respectable folk can't even light a candle without witching these days, but us poor folk still dabble here and there. Witch blood runs thick in the sewers, the saying goes. Back home, every mama teaches her daughters a few little charms to keep the soup pot from boiling over or to make peonies bloom when it's out of season. Every daddy teaches his sons how to spell axe handles against breaking and rooftops against leaking. Our daddies never taught us shit, except when the fox teaches chickens, which is how to run, how to tremble, how to outlive the bastard. And our mama died before she could teach us much of anything. But we did have Mama Mags, our mother's mother, and she didn't fool around with soup pots and flowers. The preacher back home says it's God's will that purged the witches from the world. He says that women are sinful by nature and that magic in their hands turns naturally to rot and ruin, like the first witch, Eve, who poisoned the garden and doomed mankind, like her daughter's daughters, who poisoned the world with the plague. He says that the purges purified the earth and shepherded us into a modern era of Gatling guns and steamboats, and Indians and Africans ought to be thanking us on their knees for freeing them for their own savage magics. Mama Mag says that was horseshit, and that wickedness was like beauty, in the eye of the beholder. She says proper witching is just a conversation with that red heartbeat, which only ever takes three things: the will to listen to it, the words to speak with it, and the way to let it into the world. The will, the words, and the way. She taught us everything important comes in threes: 3 little pigs, 3 billy goats gruff, 3 chances to guess unguessable names, and sisters. There were 3 of us, the Eastwood sisters, me, Agnes, and Bella, so maybe they'll tell our story like a witch's tale. Once upon a time, there were 3 sisters. Mags would like that, I think. She always said nobody paid enough attention to witch tales and whatnot, the stories grannies tell their babies, the secret rhymes that children chant amongst themselves, and the songs that women sing as they work. Or maybe they won't tell our story at all because it isn't finished yet. Maybe we're just the very beginning, and all the fuss and mess that we made was nothing but the first strike of the flint, the first showers of spark. No, there's still no such thing as witches, but there will be. Damn, what an introduction. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that was a really good intro, you guys. Oh my God, I freaking love it. We've been waiting for this. Oh, I've been waiting for this. We love to see it. It's just as good as I was hoping it would be. Sorry, I get really excited when a book is that good. I haven't had a book this good in a long time. A new one, anyway. Part 1, The Wayward Sisters. To my mother and grandmothers and all the other women that they burned before us. Why is it doing this? Give me to chapter 1. What is happening here? There we go. Okay, sorry. It took me a second to find chapter 1. Chapter 1. A tangled web she weaves when she wishes to deceive, a spell to distract and dismay, requiring cobweb gathered on the new moon and a pricked finger. Once upon a time, there were 3 sisters. James Juniper Eastwood was the youngest, with hair as ragged and black as crow's feathers. She was the wildest of the 3, the canny one, the feral one, the one with torn skirts and scraped knees and green glitter in her eyes like summer light through leaves. She knew where the whippoorwills nested and the foxes denned. She could find her way home at midnight on the new moon. But on the spring equinox of 1893, James Juniper is lost. She limps off the train with her legs still humming from the rattle and the clack of the journey, leaning heavy on her red cedar staff, and doesn't know which way to turn. Her plan only had 2 steps. Step 1, run. Step 2, keep running. And now she's 200 miles from home with nothing but loose change and witchy ways in her pockets and no place to go. She sways on the platform, buffeted and jostled by folks who have plenty of some places to go. Steam hisses and swirls from the engine, curling cat-like around her skirts. Posters and ads flutter on the walls. One of them is a list of New Salem city ordinances and the associated fines for littering, profanity, debauchery, indecency, and vagrancy. One of them shows an irritable-looking Lady Liberty with her fist raised into the air and invites all ladies who tire of tyranny to attend the New Salem Women's Association rally in St. George Square at 6 o'clock on the equinox. And one of them shows Juniper's own face in blurred black and white above the words, Miss Juniper James Eastwood, 17 years of age, wanted James Eastwood, 17 years of age, wanted for murder and suspected of witchcraft. Hell, they must have found him. She thought burning the house would muddy things a little more than that. Juniper meets her own eyes on the poster and pulls her cloak's hood a little higher around her head. Boots ring dully on the platform. A man in neat black uniform strolls towards her, baton slapping against his palm, eyes narrowed. Juniper gives her best wide-eyed smile, hands sweating on her staff. Morning, mister. I'm a-heading to... She needs a purpose. She needs somewhere to be. Her eyes flicker to the irritable Lady Liberty poster. St. George's Square. Could you tell me how to get there? She squeezes her accent for every country cent that it's worth, pooling her vowels like spilled honey. The officer looks her up and down, hacked off hair scraping against her jaw, dirt-steamed knuckles, muddy boots. He grunts a mean laugh. Saints save us. Even the Hicks want the chance to vote. Juniper never thought much about voting, or suffrage, or women's rights, but his tone makes her chin jerk up. Is that a crime? It's only after the words came whipping out of her mouth that Juniper reflects on how unwise it was to antagonize an officer of the law, particularly when there's a poster with your face on it directly behind that officer's head. That temper will get you burned at the damn stake, Mama Mags used to tell her. A wise woman keeps her burning on the inside. But Bella was the wise one. She left home a long time ago. Sweat stings Juniper's neck, nettle sharp. She watches the veins purpling in the officer's throat, seeing the silver-shined buttons straining on his chest, and sidles her hand into her skirt pockets. Her fingers find a pair of candle stubs and a pitch pine wand, a horseshoe nail and silver tangle of cobweb, a pair of snake's teeth that she swears that she won't need to use again. Heat gathers in her palms, words wait in her throat. Maybe the officer won't recognize her, with her hair cut short and her cloak pulled high. Maybe he'll just yell and stomp like a ruffled rooster and let her go on her way. Or maybe he'll haul her into the station and she'll end up swinging from New Salem's scaffold with the witch mark drawn on her chest in clotted ash. Juniper declines to wait and find out. The will. Heat is already boiling in her wrists, licking like whiskey through her veins. The words. They singe her tongue as she whispers them to the clatter and noise of the station. A tangled web she weaves. The way. Juniper pricks her thumb on the nail and holds the spider web tight in her pocket. She feels the magic flick into the world, a cinder split from some great unseen fire, and the officer claws at his own face. He swears and sputters as if he stumbled face first into a cobweb. Passers-by are pointing at him and beginning to laugh. Juniper slips away while he's swiping at his eyes. A puff of steam, a passing crowd of railroad workers with their lunch pails swinging at their sides, and she's out the station doors. She runs in her hitching fashion, staff clacking along the cobbles. Growing up, Juniper had never imagined New Salem was something like heaven. If heaven had trolley cars and gas lamps, bright, clean, and rich, far moved from the sin of old Salem. But now she finds it chilly and colorless, as if all that clean living has leached the shine out of everything. The buildings are all grayish and sober, without so much as a flower box or a calico curtain peeking through the windows. The people are gray and sober too, their expressions suggesting that each one of them is on their way to an urgent but troublesome task. Their collars are starched and their skirts are urgent but troublesome task. Their collars are starched and their skirts are buttoned tight. Maybe it's the absence of witching. Mag said that magic invited a certain amount of mess, which is why the honeysuckle grew 3 times faster around her house, and songbirds rooted under her eaves, no matter what the season. In New Salem, the city without sin, where the trolleys run on time and every street wears a saint's name, the only birds are pigeons, and the only green is the faint shine of slime in the gutters. A trolley jangles past several inches from Juniper's toes, and the driver swears at her. Juniper swears back. She keeps going because there's no place to stop. There are no mossy stumps, no blue pine groves. Every corner and stoop is filled with people, workers and maids, priests and officers managed with pocket watches, and ladies with big hats, and children selling buns and newspapers and shriveled up flowers. Juniper tries asking directions twice, but the answers are baffling and riddle-like. Follow St. Vincent to 4th and Winthrop, and then cross the Thorn and head the Straight. Within an hour, she's been invited to a boxing match, accosted by a gentleman who wants to discuss the relationship between the equinox and the end times. She's been given a map that has nothing marked on it but 39 churches, and Juniper stares down at the map, knotted and foreign and unhelpful, and she wants to go the hell home. Home is 23 acres on the west side of the Big Sandy River. Home is dogwoods blooming and pink-tipped pearls in the deep woods, and the sharp smell of onions spring underfoot. The overgrown patch where the old barn had burned, and the mountainside so green and wet and alive that it made her eyes ache. Home is the place that beats like a second heart behind Juniper's ribs. Home was her sister's once, but they left and they never came back. Never even sent so much as a 2-cent postcard, and now neither will Juniper. Red rage swells in Juniper's chest. She crumbles the map in her fist and keeps walking because it's either run or set something on fire, and she already did that. She walks faster, faster, stumbling on her little bad leg, shouldering past wide bustles and fashionable capes, following nothing but her own heartbeat and perhaps the faintest thread of something else. She passes apothecaries and grocers and entire shops just for shoes, another one just for hats, with windows of faceless heads covered in lace and froth and frippery. A cemetery that sprawls like a separate city behind an iron-high fence, its lawn clipped short and its headstones straight as stone soldiers. Juniper's eyes drawn to the blighted, barren witch yard at its edges, where the ashes of the condemned are salted and spread. Nothing grows in the yard but a single hawthorn, knobbed as a knuckle. She crossed a bridge stretched over the river, color of day-old gravy. The city grows taller and grayer around her, the light swallowed by limestone buildings with domes and columns and men in suits guarding the entrances. Even the trolleys are on their best behavior, gliding past on smooth rails. The street pours into a broad square. Linden trees line its edges, pruned into unnatural sameness, and people flock all around the center. Why, we ask, should women wait in the shadows while their fathers, husbands, are determining our fate? Why should we doting mothers, we beloved sisters, we treasured daughters, be barred from that most fundamental of rights, which is the right to vote? The voice is urgent and piercing, rising high above the city's rumble. Juniper sees a woman standing in the middle of the square wearing a white curled wig like some small unfortunate animal was pinned to her head, and a bronze St. George statue glares down at her, and the women press near her, waving signs and banners. Juniper figures that she's found St. George's Square and the New Salem Women's Association rally after all. She's never seen a real live suffragist. And in the Sunday cartoons, they're drawn as scraggly-haired and long-nosed, suspiciously witchy. But these women don't look much like witches. They look more like models in ivory soap ads, all puffed and white and fancy. Their dresses are ironed and pleated, and their hats are feathered, and their shoes are shined, and they look smart. They part around Juniper as she shoves forward, looking sideways at the seasick roll of her gait. The Crow County mud is still clinging to her hem. She doesn't notice that her eyes are on the strident little woman at the foot of the statue. A badge on her chest reads, Miss Caddy Stone, NSWA President. It seems that our elected politicians disagree with the Constitution, which grants us the certain inalienable right. It seems that Mayor Worthington disagrees with our benevolent God, who created all creatures equally. The woman kept talking, and Juniper keeps listening. She's talking about the ballot box and the mayoral election in November and the importance of self-determination. She talks about the olden times when women were queens and scholars and knights, and she talks about justice and equal rights and fair shakes. Juniper doesn't follow the details. She stopped going to Mrs. Hurston's one-room schoolhouse at 10 years of age because her sisters left and there was no one left to make her go. But she understands what Miss Stone is asking. She's asking, aren't you tired yet? Of being cast down and cast aside and making do with crumbs when we once wore crowns? She's asking, aren't you angry yet? Oh, Juniper is. At her mama for dying too soon, at her daddy for not dying sooner, at her dumb shit cousin for letting the land that should have been hers go, at her sisters for leaving and herself for even missing them, and the whole saint's damned world. Juniper feels like a soldier with a loaded rifle and finally shown something that she can shoot, like a girl with a lit match, finally shown something that she can burn. There are women standing on either side of her waving signs and filling all the pauses with "Hear, hear," and their faces are full of bright hunger. For a second, Juniper pretends that she's standing shoulder to shoulder with her sisters again, and she feels hollowed out in the place that they left behind, emptiness so vast that even fury can't quite fill it. She wonders what they would say if they could see her now. Agnes would worry. She was always trying to be the mother they didn't have. Bella would ask for 6 dozen questions. Mags would say, "Girls who go looking for trouble usually find it," and her daddy would say, "Don't forget what you are, girl." And then he would toss her down to the worm-eaten darkness and hiss the answer, "Nothing." Juniper doesn't realize that she's bit her lip until she tastes blood. She spits and hears the faint hiss as it lands, like grease in a hot pan, and the wind rises. It rushes through the square, midnight cool and mischievous, fluttering past the pages of Miss Caddy Stone's notes. It smells wild and sweet, half familiar, like Mama Mags's house on the solstice, like earth and char and old magic, like the small feral roses that bloomed deep in the woods. Miss Stone stops talking. The crowd clutches their hats and cloak strings, squinting upward. A mousy-looking girl near Juniper fusses with lace of her umbrella as if she thinks it's a mundane storm that could be taken care of with mundane means. Juniper hears crows and jays calling in the distance, sharp and savage. She knows better about this storm. She whirls, looking for the witches behind the working, and the world becomes unsown. Oh my God. It's so good, you guys. I'm so excited about this book. It's everything that I was hoping and more. Like, wow. No wonder there was such a long wait for it. I mean, good Lord, what a book. What a book. I will get this uploaded, of course. When was it written? That's a great question. I don't know, Danny. Let's find out. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's see, where's the info about this book? Aw, thank you, Sloth. Hey, I would do that. Let's see what it says, if I can see when it was written. It's not showing me a year. It's not showing me a year on here, but I think it's fairly new because I think we picked it 2020. Okay, yeah, so it's fairly new. Yeah, it's only a little copyright 2020. Okay, so she probably wrote it, you know, before that, but like published 2020. It's so good, you guys. It's so good. I mean, props to her. I am very, very invested already, and we are only an introduction and one chapter in. So, I will see you all later. That was everything I wanted it to be, and I hope you have a great Saturday. I'm going to go walk around the farmer's market. The book is called The Once and Future Witches. It's called The Once and Future Witches. Yeah, this will be uploaded to YouTube right after it downloads. So anyone who missed it can catch up there and listen to it. And yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye, guys.